not. Okay. Hi guys, hi gals. Glad that you're here. My name is Jay. Welcome to Inside the Tank Live. It's on Friday. We are talking about today episode 620, episode 620 of the Shark Tank that you just watched. And we're going to recap that. We're going to talk about the different shows or the different deals that were there today. We've got four different ones. We've got a backpack, a light, and so automated home, as well as the whole idea that the last deal of the night, which caused a little bit of looks like shark ache, if you will, at the end of the night, what we're going to be talking about today. So for those of you who are watching, if you want to participate over into the cash flow, or if you want to participate in the chat room, by all means, please head over to cashflowdiary.tv. Again, that's cashflowdiary.tv. You can type in your responses, and we can check in with you to see exactly what's going on. So, and as of this moment, I see a number of you here. Hi, Maurice, Charles, Noreen, Julio, Billy in Barcelona, as well as Joy, it looks like, as well as Teresa. Teresa cannot even come close to pronouncing your last name, but that's okay. You're here. The whole point is, tonight, what we're going to go through is, like I said, the four deals, and we're just going to kind of jump right in. But we've got some questions for you tonight as well. So make sure that if you want to participate in the conversation again, go over to cashflowdiary.tv so that I can hear from you and we can talk about what we all just witnessed this evening. The first deal of the night was Luminaid. That was the name of the company. Well, before I even get to the thing, I want you to ask yourself, what did you think about the name of the company in and of itself? Because I know I was thinking certain things, but here's what they were asking for: $200,000 for a 10% stake in the company. They had $250,000 first year sales. Now, don't get me wrong. First year sales at $250,000, especially on a price point that has a retail price of $20, $19.95. That's gotta be absolutely amazing. Last year's sales, $1 million in the last 12 months. Totally awesome. These ladies were uber impressive, if you ask me. I'm checking my notes. Some of the things that I noted was they had probably a really tight pitch. They knew their company, and you can see how they grew the company from the ground up. I mean, they just took it step by step, something Damon John would call affordable next steps, very little bit by little bit until they needed to get to the point to where they had to go. They obviously have an aversion to debt, because that's definitely one of the things that you can see here today, that they definitely they grew the company without it, and that could be a lesson for all of us when we're small, is to grow the company without it because of the way debt works. They definitely did a lot of the things in the right ways, and they have that proprietary patent that they're always asking about, right, on the show. You can see the assets of the company outside of the fact of those two individuals who were there. I think it was Andrea and Anna, and they clearly were an excellent pair, an excellent team. You could see their opposites. Those are some things that you should be looking for when it comes to building your team as well. So they had a number of offers to choose from. In fact, it was like a full house. It was a house party, if you will, in this particular case. So Mark Cuban was up there for $200 for 15%, plus he wanted the option on the first $300 for the next round. Lori was $200 for 20. Robert was $200 for 15. Damon was $300 for 20. And Kevin O'Leary, of course, we know, Mr. Royalty / Mr. Wonderful, was there for $200,000 for a 4% royalty. He wanted that his guarantee. You could see what he was after. He wanted to give them cash, make them cash, nothing else. He didn't want any other involvement. So you got to ask yourself, if you had this particular situation, which offer would you have accepted? Would you have offered something differently? What would you have offered, and why? And more importantly, why do you think they took the offer that they did? What made Mark's offer so awesome? And it was very obvious to me. And I think it was obvious because they actually said it in the post interview. And it's one of the things that you always want to think about when raising capital or offering a product or service is You got to understand your customer's problem completely. Understand it thoroughly. Understand it so well that you know it better than they do. And when that happens, they'll understand that you get them and you win the deal. And I think that was the entire reason right there, is that they resonated with the fact that, hey, Mark gets us. And because Mark gets us, then therefore, that's the one that we really, really want to. Now, don't get me wrong. The knowing that you had another 300,000 in the future was probably definitely something to think about there, because everybody else completely missed that complete part, because everybody else outside, if you look at it, when you look at these offers, you can see 4 or 3 of them that could be pretty much like commodities. It's just throwing money at them. And then the other one, it was just kind of interesting and for fun, I guess. And at the end of the day, what we're talking about here is actually solving the problem. When we're solving the problem, Mark had an eye towards the future. So if you're not already at cashflowdiary.tv, one of the things that I just want to ask you, what would you have offered if this was your deal? Why do you think, Mark, that was the correct deal for them? Are there any additional questions that you would have asked in this particular case? And one of the things, while you type those answers in, that I want to underscore is that this deal was not about the money. I don't know if you caught that. It really wasn't about the money. They were looking for a partner. It's not like they needed the deal. In fact, or they needed more money in any way, shape, or form. What they were looking for is that strategic mind that could help them beyond themselves. Pretty much, they purchased a mentor, is what they got in this particular thing. And that's one of the questions that I'm always asking is, why are they there? I think these ladies definitely had a killer pitch. I mean, it was like clear, it was concise, it was straight to the point, hit all the right things. And I don't know if they just did that in the editing bay, but I'm guessing that they were like that all the way through and was very clear, and they knew their numbers. It was very, very impressive. Just listening to them, you kind of wanted to just hand them money simply because they existed. What did you think about the product as well? I'm actually interested in understanding anything that you thought about the product, because in my head, I don't do a whole lot of camping or outdoor stuff. So it was like, okay, neat. I know myself, one of the things that I was thinking about is she said it took 7 hours to recharge it. I'm like, wow, that just seemed like a very, very, very long time to recharge it. Yes, it lasts for a long time, but 7 hours to recharge, I was like, that might be something you want to address in the future. But let's see what some of you guys are saying out there. Lemonade, sounds like lemonade. That's right. Luminaid/lemonade, who knows? I'm with you there. Maurice is, I don't like the name, but sales tell it all. That's true. The name, it is what it is, but the sales, and I think it has a great use case. And that was one of the things that they definitely hit on, and I think many of us could easily see is how, especially in emergency situations, I know if you've ever been on a cruise ship, something like that would probably be very, very helpful in that particular sense. Sounds like Kool-Aid that makes you smarter. Okay, yes, and they did purchase a mentor, Billy, so that's literally what I saw. I don't know if that's what you guys saw, but hey, now you understand. Sometimes that's what it takes to get the mentor that you're looking for, but they definitely had their stuff together all the way around in every way, shape, or form. Let's see. Was there anything else on this particular one that I wanted to highlight or that I noticed I thought was interesting? Just as a point of quick review, I wanted to make sure that you guys understand the difference and just how to look at the offers. So they came in asking for $200,000 for 10%. And just as a reminder, here's how you can figure out what that means from a valuation standpoint. You're just going to take the 200,000 and take that number, divide that by what they were, the equity that they were offering. That's going to give you the valuation or the purchase price of that company. So they're saying the company was worth $2 million. But what was interesting, and I don't know if you noticed this, they ended up getting 200,000 for 15%. So Mark was actually valuing the company at $1.3 million. So it's a little bit different than what they said. So again, this is how another way you can tell it really wasn't about the money. And one of the reasons they were able to do that and take a completely different valuation was simply because they did not have they had the right kind of financing behind them that allows them the flexibility by having the grants, the crowdfunding, as well as, personally invested a few hundred or a few $1,000s each. They had what they needed to give them the flexibility and control that allowed them to accept that type of offer. So hopefully that makes sense to you, and we can move on to the next one. Got it. So the next one was the Tallulah Totes. This one right here, right here. And did we get their names? Did you catch their names? Is that on the next one? Now, they were students from Virginia Tech. And again, this entire episode was about the businesses started in college. So, you know, for those of you watching, if you're in college, it's not too early. And if you're in high school, no, it's not too early either. And if you're not in college and that was long ago, it's still not too late. So, you know, you can still make something happen. In this particular case, this one had more of a mission. They were definitely a product more than a business, and you heard that a lot. They had $60,000 in sales in 10 months. That's not a whole lot. Product price at $65, the cost at $27. I know when they said that, the first thing in my mind is that's just not enough spread to make anything work, because you've got to have a way to, here, write this down, finance your growth. That's not enough room to finance growth in this particular economic environment, or specifically for what it is that they're offering and how to go. Now, does that mean they increase the price of their product? Does it mean they lower the cost and try to work those down? I don't know, but at the end of the day, that spread's not enough, and their distribution was clearly lacking because they only had 60,000 in sales in 10 months. Now, they had some great ideas, as you saw and heard, and those ideas were primarily centered around distribution. It's one thing to have a great idea, it's another to get it into the hands of other individuals. And sometimes we have to learn how to piggyback off someone else's distribution network. For example, many of you could be watching on YouTube right now. Guess what? This is piggybacking on their distribution network. And this is another way that we get to serve you guys and help you and all of us grow and understand exactly what we just watched, so that it's not just entertaining, but it's also educational. We'll call it edutainment, because at the end of the day, it becomes a lot of fun. So let me see, what did we learn from this one? Yeah, obviously they had a strong mission, and they pretty much got no offers across the board. And it was pretty much for the same reason. Too early, too early, too early. What does that mean? Why is an investor saying too early? And they're not really saying no, they're really saying a not yet and grow, because at the end of the day, just the idea of what it takes from a due diligence and paperwork standpoint, you know, they weren't offering a whole lot. Let me see, they're putting the company at $110,000 for 15%. So again, let's do really quickly the numbers so that you guys can see it. So it's 100 and, whoops, I didn't do that right, did I? 110 divided by 15. They were looking at a little bit over $700,000 in terms of the valuation of the company, with barely having done $60,000 worth of orders or sales and business in any way. It's just too early. There's not enough, quote unquote, meat on the bone. I mean, and something of that small, what it comes down to is there, you know, it's like I can buy the whole company. That might make it worth it, but then I've purchased another job. There's just not enough room. One of the things that plagues a lot of entrepreneurs, and may be plaguing you in a deal that you're looking at doing, is that because your vision is small, no one else can see how they can play. They may want to play, but your vision isn't large enough for them to participate. It's one of the reasons why I prefer and like to do commercial real estate, you know, resorts and or cell phone towers or apartment buildings, is because those are bigger plays that allow other people to play along with you, so that you can actually go, quote unquote, make money with friends and actually provide clean, safe, affordable housing at the same time, as well as some jobs. So they were doing great, providing some jobs, getting started, but hopefully now when you hear it's too early, you know what they mean. So the question is would you have offered, as the Sick Shark, if you were out there, would you have offered anything whatsoever? And if so, why? Were you actually more mission-based or what have you? What's that? I wouldn't have offered anything on this one, mostly because I didn't really, backpacks. Do you know how, I was just thinking about the competition. I'm thinking about my kids and what it comes down to, just how many backpack manufacturers there are. And at the end of the day, $65 I still think is a little bit too much for a college student in their backpack. Maybe I'm talking the wrong college students, but I don't know. It just seemed that even that seemed outrageous. Now, as a fashion item, different, you know, we want to take that and maybe instead of possibly begin to make it as a handbag or a purse or something of that nature, for the higher end individuals, we'd have to reposition the product. And that just seemed like a lot of work. And plus, I typically don't like anything that's going to go retail anyway, because I don't want to deal with retail seasonality, returns, and manufacturing at the end of the day. So, and here's the other thing is, what did you think, when you saw their pitch, especially after the Luminaid pitch? It was like they put it there, and I'm like, oh, that's cute. That's what I was thinking. That's what I was feeling. I'm like, oh, that pitch was cute, but it wasn't actually giving me what I needed to hear in any way, shape, or form. It didn't. I got the mission, but I didn't see any money. And I don't think anyone else did either, which is why they ended up with absolutely no offers whatsoever. So let's see what you guys thought. Let me see. Oh my goodness. Let me see wait and see. They needed to raise the price. I agree, Teresa. Absolutely. David made a good point. The price was too low. You're buying a story. Absolutely. And that's the thing. When you're buying a story, package and pay for it. Make that happen. Because if you're going to buy and sell the story, sell the story. I mean, I think you heard later, Damon was talking about, I would pay $200 for this bag. And I'm like, yeah, now see, that's what he's talking about. It's now a fashion accessory. Look what I did. I helped people. I spent a ton of money and it funded microloans, all those things. I think all of that's great, but they're going through a whole lot of work for too little money. And if you can still sell it at 200 and make it for 27, now we're talking about some serious money, and the margins are there, because now it's a Nordstrom product, obviously. It's those high-end and possibly boutique type of thing. That makes sense. Venture corporate dominate the market. Yeah, exactly. You don't want to. The idea of competing with those guys was not something I would want to do inside of a backpack market. That's why if I'm going to do it, I'm going to go super high end and let the cheap backpack market be the cheap backpack market. Kid's going to destroy it anyway. Grow my vision to help others see how they can be a part of it. Absolutely, Billy. If you think too small, that's going to be a problem for everybody involved. So good stuff, guys. You guys are doing pretty good at this shark thing. Who knows? One day you may be the ones writing the checks. So let's see. Who did we have next? Do you know? Do you remember? Oh, that's right. Let's go back. We've got the home guys, right? So then we get over to, we'll call them the professional, the Ivy Leaguers, if you will. That's what it felt like, the Keen Home. And yes, I'm sure many of you, if you've been to the Apple Store at all anytime soon, you've seen a lot of these new products, especially also at Best Buy, about the automated home and being able to connect your phone to your home in various different ways. So let's look down and break down what they were asking for. So they wanted $750,000 for 10%. So again, doing the math just so that you guys can see, that's a $7.5 million ask is what they're saying is the company is worth. And then what we're talking about here is that now one of the greatest things is if you're going to ask that, you better back it up. And they're like, yeah, we pre-sold 35,000 units to Lowe's. That's not like, $35,000 units to mom and pop. This is to a name that we know. We're like, ooh, we're probably actually going to get paid. But here's where it got interesting for me, and I don't know how you felt about this, was I was trying to understand why they were there. Because they had already raised $120,000. They had a seed round of $1.5 million. They got a decent valuation all the way up to, I think it was like, was it 3.5? 375 on that particular round of capital, right? So I'm like, well, if you did all that, what on earth are you looking to the Sharks to provide at this particular moment? Because most people don't know how to do those things, and you guys clearly do. Now, being in New York is probably an advantage in this particular case. But at the end of the day, why were you there? I don't really know. We were discussing here, we were thinking, okay, they just wanted some exposure, right? To sell a few more units, bring some awareness, that type of thing. I have no idea. That way people run the Lowe's and hopefully go buy some. What was it, event? Is that what they called it? Is it? Okay. It was like, yeah. And at the end of the day, I think Damon hit the nail on the head about where they should be in terms of the hotel market, etc. Because at an $80 price point, I know that's like, yeah, that's a way down the list on, that would be really nice to have, but not something I'm looking for at this particular moment. So They were New York, NYU students. 18,000 in grants is how they started, which I thought was interesting. And let me see, Mark made no offer. Lori, 750 for an 8.5% loan and 10% equity. That wasn't that? Didn't you do that with Kevin, or no? No. That was the next one? Okay, got it. Am I getting confused? Yeah. Okay, so, and then Robert was 750 for 13%, and he had 750 for 20%, and Damon wanted to do the manufacturing, and Kevin said 750 for 25%. So let's look at, some of the most expensive versus least expensive offers in terms. Let's take the 750 for 25% and see what the difference was, because that's one of the things. Oh yeah, and I remember there was something I wanted to really highlight on this particular one. So it went from $7.5 million to less than half price down to $3 million. Now, here's the thing. Unlike the very first company, Luminaid had flexibility because of their financing. These guys did not have anywhere near the same amount of flexibility, again, for the same reason, because of their financing. They had just sold the previous round of money at $3.75 million. If you were paying attention, they kept using the term down round. What does that mean? And I don't know if you know, but I'll write it here real fast. Down round. So first of all, that round, the idea of a round is a round of capital. So they said they had the seed round, but they also had the previous money that came in as well. So they've got that seed round at it was 1.5? 3.75. No. Well, how much money was it? They raised 1.5. That's what it was. It was a $1.5 million capital at $3.75 million valuation, which means if they accept new investors later at a valuation anything lower than the previous one, that's a down round, i.e. the investors who had previously invested, now their equity, their ownership is worth less than what they just paid for it. And if you were paying attention, one of the guys, he simply said that sends all kinds of signals to the market, which is true. It's like, uh-oh, what's going on? Why do they do that, or why to not do that? So a down round is definitely something you don't want to do inside your real estate or business or what have you. However, there are occasions where if that's what you got to do to even protect the capital, make it back and work it out, then great. But that's what they were trying to avoid, which, again, when you look at all of the offers, okay, so Mark had no offer. Lori was kind of there, with a venture debt type of offer, 10% equity. So she was giving them a $7.5 million valuation, et cetera. And then where are we at? So I think that's the main reason Robert got what he wanted, is because he did not offer the down round. So what does that mean? Let's look at the 750,000 divided by 13%. That gave him a valuation a little over 5.7. So now you're going back to those same investors and saying, hey, you just gave us $1.5 million valued at $3.75 million, but now we just added $2 million of value to the company, so your equity is now increased a significant percentage over that time period. So which to investors, again, is a better, more positive signal towards the degrees of what it is that they're trying to do as well. So in that particular case, this is one of those things where we talk about all the time inside the profit analysis quadrant. Let me show you what I mean. 1, 2, obviously over here in quadrant number 1, we talk about the 5 different types of appreciation. In this case, that's the found, forced, phased, and then we have inflated and passive. Okay, so in this particular case, what we're talking about when we're talking about appreciation is making the company worth more than what it is today. Okay, so and that's what happens in quadrant 1. Then quadrant 2 is depreciation. 3 is the amortization, when we're looking at the financing and the loan, and number 4 is the cash flow. But what we're talking about primarily is forced appreciation in this case. So they did something over the past few months to make the company worth more, and that one super something was get a really nice order from a really credible buyer at the end of the day. And then therefore then it's up to figure out what is that order going to be worth. In this particular case, a relationship with that particular retail outlet, they were willing to put a valuation and an additional $2 million. Robert was willing to offer an additional $2 million over what was previously done in order to make it work, which, okay, to him, that's what made sense. So now that we're done breaking that down, we're over to you. What would you have offered? I can tell you again, it's a retail play. I don't like the idea of it being an accessory to the rest of the home network. It was dependent upon, I think he mentioned the Nest product. I don't know if you've seen that in the store. Cool, great. I don't necessarily like that idea. It was nothing I could get excited about in any way, shape, or form. I didn't see, yes, it's going to provide some jobs. Yeah, it probably make some money, but the impact is marginal at best. There's no one who's going to love my product and me because of it. Therefore, it wasn't necessarily something that excited me. But would you have offered, and what would that have been? Is there a different offer you would have taken? You know, would you have taken a down round to get at one of the other sharks other than Robert? Because in this particular case, like, would you have worked with Damon or even Kevin in this particular case to make that work? Is there anything else that you would have asked or wanted to know? Did you feel that they did a decent enough job with their pitch and explaining who they were and how all of that worked out? Let's see what you guys had to say. How would Lori's offer look on the profit analysis quadrant? On this particular one, got it. So, all right, so let's go back and look at that since Billy is asking. So Lori's offer was $750 for 10% plus. It's an 8.5% loan as well. I don't remember what the terms were. I don't even know if she stated them. Did she? No? Okay, got it. All right, so here's how this is going to go in this same situation. What Lori is asking for is she's asking for a 10% equity stake, which is going to be over here in quadrant 1. And then she's playing in quadrant 3 for a flat 8.5% over whatever terms. So let's just say she said it was 36 months, and I'm making that up for her on her behalf. I have no idea what she would have said, but that's probably my guess, 36, maybe 60 months at best. And she's going to earn two things in this particular case. When the company spits out cash over here, from the cash flow standpoint, she's going to be able to obtain 10% of whatever that free cash flow looks like, plus on that, she's going to get an 8.5%. It's kind of functioning like a preferred return in this particular case. So she's going to get an 8.5% return up front, no matter what. That's going to be a fixed payment. And then she's got a variable payment of 10%, which I'm making an assumption that 10% is going to stay even after the loan is paid back. So I think these guys just didn't want to have another fixed payment in this particular case. Again, not having sales, that's probably a very, very wise move. Not having the sales and not knowing what that operational expense and cost and your run rates are going to be makes perfect sense to me at the end of the day, why they would have said no to that particular offer as well. So let's see what else we got. All right, so we're on to the last one. Okay, got it. So the last one, the one that we'll call it the controversial one, right? So let's look at this though. First of all, it's an app in the iPhone store. It's like, awesome. 92,000 downloads, and he's probably going to get downloads like that every year, every time. Okay, so let's talk about the product before I get all excited. He's aggregated all of those scholarships that nobody can find, but everybody wants. So now your student, your kids, our kids have a shot at finding those the scholarships that could actually help them go to an institution regardless of whatever institution they want to go to. I'm sitting here thinking about this right here going, you know what? I got to make sure that my daughter knows about this app because at the end of the day, she's in college and this guy can help, and it's 99 cents. So one of the things you've got to understand is the concept of ephemeralization. It simply means when you can lower the price on something and serve more people, everybody's standard of living raises, and more importantly, you have the opportunity to earn a significant amount of cash. So in this particular case, as you can see, with 92,000 sale or 92,000 sales. You're at 99 cents. I mean, you're doing pretty okay, especially on an app, and it's just 3 people, if I remember correctly. He had 2 developers. Is that right? Yep. 2 developers and him. So it's 3 people. They're still in college. They got a great start. He was asking $40,000 for 15%. Again, so that you guys can see. That means he wanted a total of $267,000. So it's the same thing. He's like, hey, if I offer you $250,000, can I just buy the darn thing and move forward? That's definitely one of the things that he's saying in this particular case. Well, let's keep going. So he himself, you want to talk about having a story.
What was the name of that company again?
Skali, yeah, this was the Skali. So he himself had $1.3 million in scholarship. I'm like, what? That's just impressive. I don't care how you slice it. If you can get awarded that much money in scholarships, you've got to know something. Somebody please produce an ebook. Teach people around the world. Make it happen. As you saw, it's an iPhone and Android app. Again, this is where the controversy began, is because before he really even got the words out his mouth, Lawyer was right in there ready to give you exactly what you want. And then Damon's like, yeah, I'll give you exactly what you want. And then the tech guys, Mark and Robert, wanted to ask more questions. And Kevin was oddly quiet, wasn't he? He didn't say anything. He's just like kind of chilling back. It's kind of like, did he not want a piece? Was it too small? We don't know. He got, yeah, right. He hit the cutting room floor on this one. I guess they were dead to him. It didn't really matter. It was just, at the end of the day, what I thought was interesting is understand occasionally your investor will invest in you, especially when the risk isn't that great. So relative for some of us watching and you listening, the idea of risking $40,000 could be a lot of money, but relative to their position, $40,000, whatever. If it stays, it goes, whatever. It's not that big of a risk relative to the potential feel good. And that's what I think they got from this particular one, is that there was a whole big feel good with the idea of, wow, we can actually help more people get to the schools that they want to get to, and we're creating opportunity. Now, one of the things that, I don't know if you picked up on it, but Robert's, one of the first questions he asked, he was like, did you just really show me the app? That was Robert's way of, I think, of saying, oh my God, that design was horrible. You need to work on it. But that's okay, because I know I was thinking it, Jacob. I know you were thinking it, because you're like, oh my God, really? Like, that's what you got? At the end of the day, when you're working with developers develop, not design. And those are 2 completely different things. It was functional, not pretty. But here's the lesson. It doesn't have to be perfect to still sell 92,000 units. Keep that in mind. 92,000 units. Just get the darn thing out there is the whole point. Some of us are spending way too much time trying to perfect our product, service, idea well before we try to sell it. And at the end of the day, go sell it, please, because you never know. What you going to say?
What was Damon's slogan that he put out there? He put a slogan out there. That was great.
The slogan today, that was on a different one, I think, but it was the make it, master it, then you can matter. Make it, master it, then you can matter is what he was talking about.
That's a perfect example right there.
Yeah, exactly, right?
We saw him the other day, right? Yesterday?
Yes, I did. Well, yes. For those of you who don't know, I was down at Traffic and Conversion Summit with Ryan Dice and Damon John and a whole bunch of other individuals. And he said a lot of great things. That was the first, no, it's not. I was going to say that was the first time in a room with a shark, but that's not true. There was more. In fact, Kevin was actually there too. I don't know. So I thought that was pretty funny. Anyway. The point is that when you're hanging around individuals who have different business experience, understanding their perspective, getting it done imperfectly done is better than perfectly undone. So keep that in mind. Get the darn thing out there. Give the customer a chance to tell you, yes, I want it. And I think 92,000 times is nothing more, if nothing else, it's proof of concept that, yeah, now we can go perfect it and make it better. And I'm almost willing to bet that in not too distant future, we're going to see this thing, many new versions. It'll be a web application. It'll be all kinds of things. It'll get bundled and packaged in so many different ways. I'm almost willing to bet that a competitor was watching it today going, I can do that. Going, you know what? Because that's their challenge. They don't have really something proprietary at this particular moment unless they have some sort of search algorithm that's really, really key or a way to lock out competition. So that's probably the biggest risk in this particular case that I saw that I'm like, ooh, but they got a killer idea because who knows how many more people could probably go to any school that they want to simply because of it. So just keep that in mind. All right, so it's time for the sixth shark. That's you guys. You tell me, would you have offered on this deal? You're asking me, would I? Is it retail? No, it's not. So the answer is absolutely. In this particular case, I was all behind this idea. Plus, it hits me at home. I got a kid in college. It's the right time to say something like this to me. And so would I have taken any of the other offers? You know, the interesting thing here, there's a concept that I want you to think about. There's investments, then there's loan, and then there's charity. The question is how do you feel about the idea of taking or receiving or giving money to someone on that charity handout basis? Because I think that's probably what irritated Mark as well as Robert the most. And I can understand where they're coming from because you heard them say, well, I didn't get that kind of a break. I had to work for it. And there's something in that learning how to work for it that makes you a better person, a better entrepreneur. I know it's not what you want. Trust me on this one. I'm speaking from loads of experience in this case. There are times where you feel like you want that hand out, but what you really need is that hand up so that you can go out there to make your business happen. And I know in certain cultures, the idea of giving charity in this particular situation robs the person of dignity, and it is more advantageous. It is looked upon more favorably to actually enable them to be in business by giving them at least a loan, if not preferably an investment in some way, shape, or form. The question is would you have accepted the offer? Would you have waited for, did you want, to be honest, I kind of really wanted to hear what Mark and Robert had to say because they're the tech guys. I know they would have had something really cool to add to that particular business in some way, shape, or form, but we don't get to know it now.
Well, I think that that he was doing all of it manually, and that they were going to make it look worse, and so I think he was worried that he was going to get those offers taken away from him because they would have found out something.
You think so?
Yeah, because he said I manually entered these on myself. It's all him doing it.
Right.
And so, yeah, I think he's kind of like, okay, sounds good.
No doubt. Yeah, and that's the other thing. As the entrepreneur, you're like, dude, there's money on the table. Am I going to really risk it? Bird in the hand, two in the bush. The money is on the table. Take it. That there's that thought process as well. Or did you have a strong enough belief in your own back end to make that happen? So let's see what some of you guys had to say. Got it. Love the product. Jay, better get the app before the price goes up. I know, right? You know how many people downloaded that thing tonight? He just probably doubled his sales because of that. That is how you solve a problem. He absolutely solved the problem. One of the things about if you're out there trying to wonder, hey, what kind of business could I do? Solve a problem that you're experiencing. Period. Solve it for yourself. And if you can solve it for one person, then you can solve it for thousands and millions. It's a matter of scale at that point. So especially with the student debt issues, the app done is better than perfect. You got that right. Billy in Barcelona, get the product or service out the door. That's right. Keep writing offers. For those of you in real estate, remember, an offer is just an invitation for a conversation. Yes, I would. College is robbing students of money. More importantly, Maurice, I think college is robbing students of time. At the end of the day. Now, that's simply meaning that's the time when most people can, quote unquote, easily afford to work for peanuts is during those years when they're that young, and that's when they can be creative and take the risk. As you saw evidenced by this entire episode, all of those were college businesses that started, and they had the opportunity to be able to start something wild and crazy, so to speak, and the environment without having to worry about how am I going to eat and make the bills this particular month. So without that extra burden, they were able to go out there and do some amazing things. Now, maybe there's some universities out there that are out there incubating and changing those types of things. I know that that's definitely something that I find very, very intriguing and definitely interesting, at the end of the day. So let me see, what is that, Maurice? He said, I think that's why Robert got mad, because it was his field. You're probably right. The idea of, at the end of the day, it's like, this is my baby. This should come to me. Let me talk about it. And then it goes to Lori and Damon. You're like, you do products on TV and you do clothes. This is an app. It has nothing to do with it. You can almost hear them saying that. It's just like, how dare you? That was mine. To some degree, totally. Because again, it couldn't have been about the money, because it's $40,000, and between them, they probably got that in their couch or Bentley cushions on the way home. It's no big deal. So it had a whole lot to do with principle. With the shark fight that was there today. So that was definitely interesting. I mean, we saw some of everything on this particular episode at the end of the day. So, and I think that's it.
Second to last slide.
What's that?
There's another slide.
Okay, got it. So let me ask you guys this. The best offer of the night, worst name for a product, I think we've actually already covered that one. Worst deal of the night. At the end of the day, you know what? I still can understand why they did the last one, so to speak. I get why they wanted to be a part of Skali. I get why they were willing to just go for it. I get it, because at that point, it's like, look, we're going to figure out whatever needs to be figured out. It can't be that hard, and you guys aren't the only people on the planet that know how to do this techno stuff. We can got contacts and know people. So I get that from that aspect too, especially when the risk is small. Keep that in mind. Sometimes when you're asking a person, the risk to them may be small. It may be everything to you, because that is everything to him. It's his entire business. It's everything to him. However, to them, it's small. Risk is also very, very relative. So keep that in mind. So as far as the worst deal of the night, let me see. Well, clearly the Totes win, right? It's like nobody wanted a piece of that. But I think it's a great product. I think they just got to increase the price and find a different market for it. I think they're selling to the wrong person at the end of the day, or make a different version of it that's significantly cheaper, something, and get some distribution, baby. The best offer of the night. Let me see. Best offer. You know what? Even though they got the worst product name, they definitely got the best offer, because they what ended up happening is that if you can learn to understand your customer's problem better than them, you're going to end up getting these offers. This is one of the reasons why when we're out there, if you're doing real estate and wholesaling or making offers on property, this is why we do our 3 offer method. And this is why we become what I call PIGs, professional information gatherers, so that when it's time to make the offer, you can make an offer that solves the problem completely, because you understand it better than anybody else. And then what ends up happening is that the person who has the problem goes, yes, you get me. Let's do business. Very, very little hesitation, as you saw tonight. I think that's very, very true.
I think he had the most creative offer, Mark.
Most creative offer?
Yeah, Mark had that was the most creative offer.
You think so?
Well, what else? Okay, so the other one is what?
No, these were creative too, especially Damon with the $750 for the manufacturing rights. I mean, at the end of the day, being able to understand, venture debt and getting the manufacturing rights. Now, very few people were thinking about, I wasn't thinking about manufacturing rights, but Damon happens to having built, the brands he has, he's got the infrastructure to manufacture like nobody probably else up there. Is because that's what he does, clothing, textiles, those types of things. He can manufacture like nobody's business, which made it interesting. But it wasn't good enough for them. He was more thinking about him in that particular case more than he was thinking about them. And I think Robert came in with an offer for them, which is why he got it. Not that I don't think that was overly. Okay, well maybe. But at the end of the day, I still like the fact, I just resonate with the fact that you understand the customer's problem. When you understand the customer's problem, you get the deal. If you fail to demonstrate that understanding, you just don't. It's at the end of the day, that's just what happens. So let me see what you guys had to say about this last one. I wish there was a show like this with real estate. Totally understand. You're right. At the end of the day, what I'm going to share with you, Joy, is when you say if you wish there was a show like this for real estate, I'm going to hop over really quick, if you permit me, to our website here, because inside for our members, what we literally do is we do this exact same thing login. We do this exact same thing for everybody every Tuesday. So I'm going to take you for a little sneak peek since you brought it up, Joy, and you guys saw I didn't plant her. She's just there. But what we do inside of our membership here is we absolutely make it possible. So we've got a number of courses across many different disciplines for real estate investors that include sales, negotiations, and all these other things. We've got our core membership, but right over here, other than our lesson library where we have tons of recordings of all of our calls and webinars and things that we do. Is it going to load? It's going to load slowly on its own time. I'm gonna also click the live. Okay, so you can see all the lessons here. So we've got a number of them covering a various myriad different disciplines. And then also over here we have as you can see, this is being broadcast live to our membership, but on Tuesdays we do the same thing again to our members to give them the information that they need related to their real estate deals, and we break them down and help them go through that as well, because primarily by training, by profession, if you will, that's what I do. Is we go out there, I teach people to help raise capital, we raise capital, we do the deals, we wholesale, we buy and hold, we do all kinds of things as it relates to real estate. It just so happens that we really love Shark Tank for the lessons and how they apply to everything else at the end of the day. So hopefully you've enjoyed today. Let me see what else you got. There you go. So hopefully you guys have enjoyed today. If you haven't already, please hit the subscribe button because we're gonna be back next week, because it looks as though you guys like this. We're gonna be here. Tell a friend, phone a friend, drag a friend, email a friend, whatever, get them here so that they can get their questions answered too. We can talk about how you would be your sixth shark and begin to prepare you for whatever it is, that business that you think that you want to create, and help make that happen, because it's fun to swim and think and imagine what you would do in these particular situations, and to get additional feedback on how you could have structured deals and why these types of deals are good, so that when you are in that position, you're actually prepared. It's been fun talking to you guys tonight. I do look forward to talking to you guys again soon. Until next time.